Plus, an exclusive live interview with David Goldman. That he is the New Jersey father locked in an international custody battle. We're going to talk with him in just a moment. But first, NBC's Jeff Rawson has the latest on his 5-year odyssey. Jeff, good morning.
Hi, Meredith. Good morning. If it feels like we've been here before, we have. David Goldman this close to getting his son back from Brazil. Court-appointed psychologists now say with each passing day, the father-son bond is getting weaker. And so this morning, David is desperate to get this wrapped up fast, waiting for a final decision about custody. A father's love. Tested, David Goldman dedicates his life to his son Sean, and he does it from a distance. David lives in New Jersey. Sean is 4,300 miles away in Brazil. A 5-year nightmare David called tragic here on Today.
The pain to watch your son, your child, as a parent, suffer and not to be able to help them is beyond unbearable.
David's wife took Sean to Brazil to visit her family in 2004. They never came back. From there, she divorced David, remarried, and died during childbirth. Her new Brazilian husband has been fighting to keep Sean with him in what's turned into an international dispute.
We will continue to support Mr. Goldman.
On Wednesday, a senator from New Jersey fired off this letter to the Foreign Relations Committee, demanding a hearing. Under the Hague Convention, an international treaty, he wrote Sean should have been returned to his father. But even with help from President Obama and dozens of television appearances pleading his case, David still isn't allowed to bring Sean home. It's tied up in the Brazilian courts.
Bring Sean home!
Americans have rallied in support of David, but in Brazil, they rally behind the Brazilian husband. Just this week, he and his family made their U.S. television debut, a move to sway Americans.
I love Sean the same as a real son.
The family went on to accuse David of being a bad husband, saying his wife fled to Brazil because they didn't love each other. And then the new husband said this about Sean.
He asks me every time about this. I want to stay in Brazil with my father, you, João Paulo, and my daughter and my family.
David's camp fired back, saying Sean has been brainwashed.
The child, according to the court-appointed psychologists, is being gravely injured. Send Sean home. He belongs with his father.
Under a new court order, David can actually have custody of Sean 6 days a week. But here's the catch. It has to be in Brazil. David has not flown down there because he says anything short of Sean coming back home to New Jersey is a setback. Meredith.
Jeff Rawson, thank you very much. David Goldman is with us exclusively along with his attorney, Patricia Appy. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
David, you're watching that piece. You know that the man who says that he is Sean's stepfather, the Brazilian man who married your wife after she left and went to Brazil, and the maternal grandmother were on TV earlier this week. You heard what they said. A, that your marriage wasn't any good, that there was a lot of trouble. Bruno was unhappy. She left. And B, this is Sean's stepfather now saying, I love him as my own son. Sean wants to stay in Brazil. What is your reaction to what they've said?
The levels that this is so wrong are unsurmountable. I mean, just to see that. First of all, they were under oath in depositions in New Jersey a year and a half after my wife, deceased now, took Sean and held him illegally in Brazil, saying there was nothing wrong with the marriage, under oath in depositions. And now they say that because they can take a child, my child, keep him in their possession, that he's theirs, and this guy's got no relation at all to my son. I mean, it's disgusting.
You know, Patricia, there are 2 videos now that have been made of Sean, the families had made of Sean, where one was by a private psychiatrist, and then this other one, I'm not sure who took that video, where Sean is interviewed saying he wants to stay in Brazil. What impact will those videos have, if any, on this custody case?
Well, they shouldn't have any impact on the case. Both are in violation of the current orders of the Brazilian judge. This child is not to even be exposed to the media. But of course, this family has walked right through those orders, subjected this child to being asked a question that the court has said he should not even be asked, let alone asked in front of a camera.
Can I make one point?
Sure.
Sean was heard loud and clear by 3 court-appointed Brazilian mental health professionals. And loud and clear, they evaluated that he is being violently psychologically damaged and is in a very unhealthy environment. He was heard by a neutral party against our... we objected to that because there is no remedy for that in The Hague, no mechanism, and yet they still did it, and they found that he needs to get out of there and he needs to be with me immediately. So they could pay whoever they want, do whatever they want, and when is enough enough? When are they going to be held accountable?
A judge has said that you can go to Brazil and you can have custody of your son 6 days a week in Brazil while waiting for these appeals to be heard. Are you planning to do that?
Well, the next thing, I'll jump on a plane, go there, and then they'll appeal that, and I'll get kicked in the teeth again. So until all those appeals are exhausted, and I can actually have real quality time with my son, knowing that I'm going to have to drop him back off to that, who knows, God knows what they do to him, is very difficult. But if I can have 6 days at least in a row with Sean in a healthy, normal environment without being under surveillance and all these crazy things that they do, absolutely.
But Patricia, if David doesn't go to Brazil, couldn't the court or the family say, well, we offered him this and he didn't come, so maybe he doesn't really care?
Meredith, we're trying to make arrangements so that David will have the opportunity to go down there in an environment where Sean can be secure, where we can be sure that both David and Sean have the opportunity to bond as father and son. We are also wanting to be sure that we can do that without there being more legal battles. Those two things we're trying to do very quickly. Sean has a break coming up from school. It would be the ideal time, and with the assistance of the Department of State and others, we're going to try to make those arrangements happen.
You know, David, it's very clear how much you love your son. He's been there for 5 years. Does any part of you believe it's possible that maybe he does now love Brazil and love his family there?
Well, do you know, when you take a prisoner and you put the same thing in their head over and over and over, and then it doesn't work when they see the prisoner, my son, with me, and they see the love just flourish from him, and then they put him back up in this chamber and damage him even more. Again, Sean spoke loud and clear in front of these psychologists, and he is not in a frame of mind in any mental health, psychologically speaking, to say anything. He needs to get out of there. He needs help, and our government needs to step up even more right now, and the Brazilian government needs to step up, because this is just such an egregious case of child abuse, human rights abuse. I mean, I can't understand why this is still going on.
All right, David Goldman, thank you so much for coming this morning. Patricia Appy, as always, thank you both.
Thank you.